Hello, magical lovers. I'm Aubrey.
And I'm Peyton.
And today we are going to be talking about Divine Rivals, the TikTok sensation by Rebecca Ross.
Yes, so join us with a cup of coffee as we dive between these paper sheets. Let's do this.
Yes. All right, guys. So, Divine Rivals is a blend of a book. Let's just start there. This
Yes.
is a fantasy historical romance book. Whatever label you want to put on it, it probably fits. The story tells about two rival journalists. It's set in a high fantasy setting of World War One, so it's got all this like dark academia vibes. They're journalists reporting on this war, but it's a war of gods. And so you get this like fun twist of like fantasy and gods, and there's a little bit of magic going on, but it also very much feels dark academia, like historical World War One. The amount of times that the word tea is dropped in this book is astronomical. But it like the perfect vibes. And it's a romance. And so you're like watching these like academic rivals like kind of like compete and fall in love, and it's amazing.
Yes. And so I do think that this book would be great for someone who isn't really interested in diving fully into the fantasy
Yeah,
genre
absolutely.
and they come from a background of romance. This is your
Yeah.
book. And yeah, I
Mhm.
think it'd be worth it to someone who just wants to dabble in those like dark academia vibes.
Yeah, it feels a little bit like magical realism. Like I cannot think of her name, but House of Spirits. I can't think of her name, but anyways, like the kind of vibe where there's magic going on, but you're never expecting. It's not like epic
Right.
proportions of magic. At the
Everyone has
end of
powers. Blah
Yeah,
blah
at the
blah. Yeah.
end of the day, this book, like the war is regular World War One trench warfare. Like it's gritty, it's
Mhm.
real. They spend a lot of time, discussing like the hard facts of life, and you can see that. And so it's not a whimsy fantasy novel, which, as Peyton was saying, I think is a good transition at point for people who are not super into fantasy or just looking for a good fall read, because it leans heavier on that dark academia historical romance side.
Right. Yes. Yeah, that definitely kind of covers the genre sort of thing. I do want to put a little
Hmm.
in here is that when I was looking into this book because it really popped off on TikTok, a
Yes.
huge reason why is because people were relating Divine Rivals to Fourth Wing. Now, here, no, other, it is not Fourth Wing
No.
at all. This
Mm-mm.
book, if you are jumping into this thinking you are going to get a Fourth Wing, but you are not. The only thing I will say that this book has is that rival plot line, okay?
Yeah.
This isn't, and the thing with Divine Rivals is it's not even enemies to lovers, it's more like rivals to lovers.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, if you are looking for a Fourth Wing book with dragons and epic crazy stuff, this is not it.
Mm-mm.
This is a love story. Okay?
Yes.
I
Like
think that where like Fourth Wing and Divine Rivals are the same is that it brings people who aren't into fantasy into
in
fantasy,
Yeah.
but this is even a peg below Fourth Wing for me, just as far as like the romantasy goes.
Yeah, I feel like they're just so different. It's absurd that people are relating to them because they got popular at the same time, and that's the
Right.
only thing that I can give.
Mhm.
And they do both have like that gritty bit of like you can see a lot more real world in these high fantasy settings than you can in
Yeah.
typical high fantasy settings. But like this is a romance book. Like romance first, the plot of this book is to watch these two characters fall in love, which is sick and it's beautifully written. But whereas like Fourth Wing, I feel like the romance plot was equal to the other plot going on. Like this is the plot is the love story. I think that like
Right.
the series name is like Love Letters or like Enchanting Letters or something like that. But the comparison I like to give is that like the training montage in Fourth Wing is Violet like almost getting killed multiple times, and the training montage in Divine Rivals is Iris running, and like it just
Up
like
a
sucks
hill.
to run up a hill, which like honestly
Same, more relatable.
I felt seen in this book. This is the type of fantasy that I think I could survive.
So
Like
relatable. Yeah, you
yeah.
are right. I do feel like I could survive in this book, whereas Fourth Wing, you're like, cool.
Send me to the scribes quadrant. Like,
But yeah, so if cap here, if you're looking for a Fourth Wing book, this is not it.
no.
But yeah, I do want to preface this and say that this is a dual POV book. Some people
Yeah.
are not into that, right? This is just a bunch of warnings we're giving before you jump
Yeah.
into this book. It is dual POV. I did not know that going into it. And I will say it kind of took me by surprise. I have some opinions on that. I'm going to love to share in our spoiler section.
Mhm.
But just so you know, it is dual POV. There's benefits, there's downsides to that. So take that for what it is. I do think that both our main characters have a very vivid and very prosy voice, which kind of goes into the
Yes.
writing style of Rebecca
Mhm.
Ross. And from some booktubers and bookstagrammers and booktalkers I have talked to, they did say that people that have read more of her work, this is kind of her vibe. She's all
Mm.
about the fancy, prosy, just kind of like
Yeah.
poetry. I mean, hell, this book, it's on the front cover. It's about love letters. So, if you want all those vibes, here you go.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to me is that Peyton and I don't do research before we read a book. Like if it's popular on TikTok, we're just gonna dive in and we're gonna like
Right.
fuck around and find out. So if you're watching this video before you read it, you're doing a million times more research than
Yes.
us. And so I think a lot of these things like took us by surprise,
Yeah.
especially with it being compared to Fourth Wing because they became popular at the same time. Like there's it's a different ball field to get into.
Yes. Yeah. So those are our kind of like general thoughts about the book, a
Yes.
brief summary, some warnings if you care about those. I would love to get into our star ratings of this book and
Yes.
overall if we'd recommend it for anyone to
I know I peeked at Goodreads earlier the other day, and I know that Peyton and I have different reviews, which
Yes.
doesn't happen often. Usually,
No.
like our reviews are like neck and neck.
Mhm.
So I'll go first because I gave this, I think 5 stars. I don't know. It's sometimes like I'll finish a book and I'll be like, 5 stars. And then
Yes.
like later I'll like look back on it and I'll be like, 4.5. So like I think right now I'd give it 4.5. On Goodreads,
Okay.
it's 5. And I think I'll leave it there just because
Yeah. That's your initial thought. Like that's
yeah.
fair.
Um I thought it was a very romantic. I liked like the setting. It moved a lot, which was helpful to me. Like that not that it was particularly fast paced, but
Yeah.
the plot kept changing, which is what I appreciated. Like
Right.
you'd get to a point and I'd be like, oh, I see the track of where this is going. And then it'd change, which kept me on my toes, especially for a romance book where you're getting most of your plot out of the characters developing a connection. So seeing like the exterior plot change that much was super nice.
Yeah. No, I do agree with that. I gave this a 3.5, and my star ratings are very strict. And well, maybe, that's why it's a 0.5. A 3 for me is like a good book. So I do recommend this to the right person. A 4.55
Mhm.
is me coming up to you and saying, you need to read this book right now. I love this book.
Yeah.
Personally, for me, I think some relationships move too fast for this to be considered fantasy adjacent. Um,
Yeah.
and sometimes when I was reading, my mind would wander. And sometimes I'm like, am I just a bad reader? And I'm like, no, because I have read books this thick that I am
Yeah.
fully in the whole time.
Mhm.
So who knows? Maybe it's her writing style. I've read kind of books like this before. It's not that I didn't like the book. I just didn't. It's not like my favorite book and even like a top 5 for my year. Am
Yeah.
I going to read the next book? Hell yeah. I could have given this book an easy 4.5 just off of the ending, but I feel like a lot of times in these books, Fourth Wing is to blame as well. The last chapter is when everything goes down. And so
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like I would have just liked more like spunk.
Mhm.
So,
You know
if
what?
I'm gonna elaborate on my review, that star rating and why I did it in our spoiler section, which I'm excited to do, but just know that like 3.5 for Miss P right here that's a good review. It's a good book. It's not a great book.
Yeah.
It's not like excellent. It's a good book.
And I think my 5 star, especially after hearing you talk, I'm giving it 5 stars as a historical romance. This is
Yeah,
not a 5 star fantasy read.
right.
And I made that distinction because as I was reading it, I was like, oh, this isn't really fantasy. Like
Yeah,
there's fantasy books and then there's fantasy books. And this is like a fantasy book. This is like, oh, I think that like having like these magic letters is fun. She does do a lot of world building with the gods, which I like. There's not even like it's not like Monday. It's like whoever's day. But like I don't know, it's a historical romance, and
yeah.
that's
I think
what I'm
that they
giving
should
five
just
stars to. It's not
right.
a 5 star fantasy.
Yeah, I definitely think that they should market it as that for
Yeah.
people that will go into it. So yeah, I mean that's that. Stick around for a spoiler section for us to dive in that more. I'm not here to ruin this book for you. I do think that I don't love star ratings because I feel like it labels a book
Yeah.
and everyone rates things differently. So don't take
Mhm.
my rating or Aubrey's rating as like Bible. Um like read it and form your own opinion and then come back and yell at us in the comments section. That'd
We're
be
just
fun.
here to gossip.
I love a gossip and a good debate. All right, we are moving on.
Yes. All right. So jumping into the spoiler section of this
Yeah,
book, if I can
spoilers from
call it.
here on out.
Okay. The
Mm-hmm.
characters. We have Iris and Roman.
Winnow and
Iris
Roman
and
Kit.
Kit. I okay.
I didn't.
I
Yeah.
liked that they called each other by their last names.
Yes, except when it got confusing. I love the last name thing. I mean, we see that. I'm not gonna spoil like a bunch of Fourth Wing stuff here, but I see that we saw that in Fourth Wing too, and it's kind of hot and kind of sexy, honestly. But sometimes, like, because they would call each other Winnow and Kit, when
Mhm.
other characters would call them Iris and Roman, I was like, sometimes I'd be like, wait, oh yeah, that's your name.
Well, and here's the thing that I thought was weird is that, like, especially with the news girl in the beginning, like when Iris is still working at the Gazette,
Yeah.
or whatever. Yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
the
the
Gazette.
newspaper. Yeah.
She's like, then Sarah said something to me, and then it'll be the last name. But I'm like, if you refer to her only by her last name, then why is her first name in the text? Like, why are you thinking of her first name in your head and then only saying the last name out loud?
Right.
Shouldn't you just think about her as her last name? I did think it was funny later though that like we knew the girl's name from Iris's point of view, but then Roman had no clue who this bitch was. He's like, "Oh yeah," and then this like random editor is just like kind of looking at me weird, like,
And that's so funny because it kind of plays into like his character because
yeah,
Roman's character goes through a lot of growth in this
yeah,
book. Right? He's the most transformed character in this book. Iris always stays true to who she is.
mm-hmm,
And I think it's interesting. I do think it's interesting to see the difference between like someone who came from nothing and someone who came from everything. And I also think that's really cool because of the whole lineage thing with the typewriters is that their
yeah,
grandparents one came from something and one came from nothing, and then to kind of like strip society from it, that like these two people from different class brackets have the same magical typewriter
Yeah.
is actually like from like a social element is like kind of like you could write a paper about just that.
Yeah.
About her doing that and the connection. I really thought that was super cool how they kind of like tied that together, and it kind of
Yeah.
helped grow those characters. So that was very interesting. Though, if you had to, because this is a dual POV and we have two main characters, I mean, obviously we want to identify with Iris as our main character.
Yeah.
Because it kind of is her story.
Yeah.
It is dual POV, so we do have two main characters. It's we have to decide which one we like better.
Okay. We must decide.
We have to decide. Because who are you thinking? Who did you love?
Who did you love?
Who did you hate?
Honestly, I feel like it was Iris's story.
Yeah.
And Roman just gave like more important side character.
Yeah, like that's the thing.
Like,
Like
I
his
think we got
chapters,
it.
I was like, shut up.
Well, it even says, because I was struggling to find the title page of the book. God, guys, I'm not. This is the first like full book I've read on my Kindle, so
not
struggling to get to it. So I was trying to find the title page on my Kindle, and so I'm like going through like the acknowledgments, and the beginning acknowledgement is for Isabel, who read this book as I wrote it, who convinced me to add Roman's POV. And there's other stuff.
I did not see that. That is so interesting.
His POV.
What the hell, Isabel?
Original. You didn't like it?
No.
What?
I think I would have written this book differently. Yes.
It did. It's
hot take. Hot take.
Shook me when we switched to his POV, because it's not a 50-50 POV. Like, I've read split POV romances before, and it is not equal. And so when we finally like switched to his POV, I do think it made it easier to watch them fall in love, knowing ahead of time that Carver and Roman were the same person as the reader.
Yeah,
because
I think I would have liked to be surprised by that, though. Like, I think it would have packed more of a punch for me personally.
And Iris gets over it real quick.
Yeah, so like that's the thing. I like Iris a lot. I think she's a really cool character. But I didn't love any of these characters. I actually loved Addie because she saves that cat. Which, may I add, that cat is still in the fucking closet, okay? Is the cat okay? Like, I'm worried about the cat she locked in the closet. When they... anyways, so
did she take it? Probably.
I literally cannot stand how fast these two fell in love with each other. It wasn't like they were rivals, and even at the paper, from what I remember, like they talked to each other, but like not really. And so like,
when she'd only been there for like 2 months.
Like, what the and now they're married? Like, it was so cringy to me. I think like if I was in middle school, this book would be my favorite book because of how fast it moves. But like, I'm here for that slow burn. If this book is more than a book long, there is no like, I understand for plot wise. I just know. Actually, no. Them being married must mean something in the future book, because I don't understand why. I don't understand why they had to get married. Like,
it's a bang.
Like, and the dual POV, I think that if I would have written this book, okay, this is the difference. This is coming from a fantasy reader's mind. not, and even like mystery, okay? This is not coming from romance. Romance, I understand you want to be in this whirlwind, swept off my feet, loving seeing his point of view and how he yearns for her, but she has no idea. Like, okay, cut the shit, okay? How cool would it have been for him to like show up and she's like, why are you here? And then we're like, yeah, why are you here? And then we find out with her that he is Carver. That would have been
Yeah.
so fucking cool. And I just get so frustrated. And I was wondering, this book is not big, y'all. It is not big.
Mm-mm.
And I was wondering why it was taking me so long to read. Because listening to his thoughts is so painful to me. Like, the fact that I just came up with the fact that they got married in this book. Like, y'all are so young, okay? Like,
Yeah, but
just chill. Let the romance blossom. And then in the last book, if it's a duology, I guess, next book, seal the deal.
well, I
Like,
think there's supposed to be a memory loss plot in the next book.
oh, really?
So
Okay.
he's not going to remember her.
Yes, but that should even grow their, like, this is the thing, and this is why I gave it 3.5, which I'm happy I can talk about loudly now, is I think that the second book, like most, will be really good.
Yeah.
I did this with Cruel Prince. I think I gave Cruel Prince like a 4 out of 5 to start. Because I knew that Wicked King and Queen of Nothing were going to rock my socks. And guess what? They fucking did. Okay? Let's look at ACOTAR. Okay? Same dang thing. Book 2 in
Yeah.
ACOTAR is my favorite book of all time.
It's because you're a fantasy girly, and so you're used to the big series, and so like it's like I barely know you. We're only one book in. Like this book only has like 300 pages. It's like
And they're married.
I don't. Yeah, but I think for like romance books, I think that's like common. Like I don't think it was rushed for a romance book.
Yeah, well, I think it's shit, and I don't like it. I'm so heated about this.
Yeah,
Like, one of my favorite scenes is when they get married and they go into the room and there's like a bunch of candles and stuff. Like, I love that. And like little romance things. Like, I'm not gonna say I hate romance. If there's a fantasy book with no romance in it, I hate it. I just read Red Rising. I know that's more science fiction, but there are fantasy elements to it. There was little to no romance, and I didn't love Red Rising. So like, I know I love romance, but and even fourth one, like there's romance in it. ACOTAR, like that is a love story, okay?
Yeah.
But there was something about this book where I was like just a little off put by it. But I love this book's broken into really just like 3 parts.
Yeah.
And I think the last act is like chef's kiss amazing. So this is why I really do think it's a great book. But those little character quirks, I was like, if you say one more damn thing, Roman, like you are such a nepo baby, like I don't care about you. I do not care about him at all. So I hope he's redeemed in the next book, especially since his ass got captured. So we'll see.
I don't think most people think he needs to be redeemed. Like I don't think he's gonna change.
I don't think he will either. I mean, he's a much nicer person, and I think he always has been. Just, product of your environment. Like if you're raised in something, you're gonna have different tendencies than someone else. But yeah, that's my rant about those characters.
Okay, so the typewriter thing was super cute. I love
Yes.
that you could like send these like, which is why I think that any of it's fantasy, because to get the magical typewriters.
The typewriters are so cute.
That was adorable. I thought it was a little funny that like obviously if you want to say that someone's a good writer, like you absolutely can. But when Rebecca Ross, like we know she's writing all of it. Like she's writing Kit's stuff, she's writing Iris's stuff, she's writing the rest of like the book, the actual book. So I thought it was so funny and a little cringy every time like Roman was like, she's such a good writer, I love the way she moves the words. And I'm like, Rebecca, hype yourself up, girlfriend. Like you're just talking about yourself. Like when you make a smart character or a funny character, you can like take time to like make a joke that makes someone laugh and like, or like set the situation up so that way they can be incredibly smart or funny. And like she obviously took the time to write super pretty prosy stuff. Like obvious, like she's not wrong, but she is just like hyping herself up and is like, "You're such a good writer, Iris." Wink, wink.
Yeah.
But they
No,
were.
it was funny.
It was like their style of writing was so flowery that it was
Yeah.
almost a little cringy. And I
Yes.
mean, like I'm a creative writing minor. Like I'm a whore for some good writing. I love good prose. But like
It's so
sometimes I was like,
cheesy.
"Oh, you're really just laying it all out there right now. Like
Yes.
you're just bearing your soul on this piece of paper."
It was so young. Like it was just young. Okay?
Yeah.
And I know the letters in the beginning are supposed to break her character down because she's very guarded. I mean,
Yeah.
her brother left for war.
Mhm.
Her mother's an alcoholic, and when that bitch got hit by that car, I was like, oh shit, like this bitch about to Iris is about to go through some shit.
Yes.
So she's guarded, and then the
Mhm.
letters kind of show who she really is. But who she really is just came off kind of cringe sometimes.
It's just a little bit of a wimp.
Just a little bit. And the thing is, it's like, this is YA to me.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and this shows that it's like historical romance. Like I just feel like historical romance is that like camp space where you can be like,
yeah.
we are just guiding with our hearts.
I'm
Everything
so
is
much
shot in
love.
slow-mo. We're gonna
Yeah.
get married 200 pages in so we can have sex. Like it's I feel like it's just like you have to just be like, this is historical romance camp.
Yes.
Like,
Yes. And I think they should be marketed as such
yes.
because if you're going
Mhm.
in for a fierce main character, which Iris does have those qualities, but like at her heart, like she just was like, "You
Yeah.
want to get married? Okay. You
Okay.
want to follow me all the way to war? Okay. All I really care about is finding my brother. Mm. And then my mommy died. I'm sad. But then I'm gonna go to my typewriter and talk about how I love this mysterious man who's writing to me. Okay, okay. If I learned one thing about the internet, people, and you do not write strangers love letters, okay? Because have you ever seen Dateline? Okay,
No,
you
she
do.
hasn't. It's 1910.
What if that was like a weird old man talking to her through the
She
like the wardrobe? Like, is this fucking Narnia? Like, what the hell?
she does think in the beginning, she's like, I have no idea who this person is. They're like, it could be like so old, and I'm like, you're really like, Iris. Actually, she just lives in a little bit of a state of Delulu. She's like, no, I'm
She's
sure that this guy's hot.
no, like I know he's hot because his words are hot.
Yeah,
And like this is why probably Rebecca added the dual POV to let us know that it's not creepy.
yeah.
But like
Dude.
she didn't know. And she's like
Mm-mm.
Roman tells her, she gets like mad for a little bit and then she's like, I just really need to combine you two together to like fully be
Yeah.
in love with you.
Well, I feel like she didn't super love Roman. Like, I feel like she thought Roman was hot, but
Yeah.
like she wasn't like that into it. Like she had all of the emotional connection with Carver to the point where it's like she was like, "Oh, thank God you're Carver," because like I'm in love with Carver and I really wanted to have sex with you.
Yes.
So like this just worked out for me perfectly.
Yeah. So like whatever, who's Roman? Like she like they're having sex and she's like Carver.
Did
She
she
like
really?
no, she didn't. But like I mean if
Can
we're
you
gonna do this, like commit to it, you know?
Yeah, commit to the
Uh
bit.
commit to the bit. Okay, so moving off of these crazy characters, I do want to
Uh,
say that probably my favorite duo here is Marisol and is it Keegan?
yes,
Our queens.
our queens.
I love them, and I love how Marisol's like, "Well, I'm older," and she's like 33, and What I love about this book is this is my favorite thing is the found family trope,
Yeah.
because Iris has been through some shit and
Mhm.
she needed this.
Yeah.
And finding a fellow, 19 some or 18-year-old
Mhm.
laddie who's kind
Yeah.
of there for like similar reasons, like not fully for herself, but to kind of like prove herself. I found that like so fucking cool.
Yeah.
And the fact that they like kind of like help out and they're kind of like running the
Mhm.
B&B, like that is just like so cool to me. And so yeah, I love Marisol's character. I love the addition of Addie, the whole found family shit, and then even how they could kind of accepted Roman in with it too. Like I thought that was so cool.
Okay, I feel like the found family was also just as rushed as the romance. Like, I feel like we
Oh yeah.
really jumped the gun on being like, yep, we are a family now. And I'm like, okay, I guess we are. Now, I think there might be a time. Sometimes I'm like, oh, a bunch of time has passed. And then I'd be like, oh, no, actually, no time at all has passed.
Correct.
And I don't know how consistent the time jumps were in the book, because she'd say something and I'd be like, oh, like you've been out here for like 2 months. And then she'd say another thing and it'd be like, but you haven't seen Roman in 2 weeks. How does that doesn't add up.
Yeah.
But
It's everything is really rushed.
I thought it was kind of funny how like Marisol, how do you say her
I
name?
call her Marisol. Like
Yeah,
Marisol.
it's the
Yeah.
same name as Isabel's mom and like the Lightwood's mom in Shadowhunter,
Yeah.
and I just don't know how to say it.
Yeah. I would say Marisol because I don't
But
know.
like she did not really give that much of a fuck about Roman. Like they like definitely like brought him in and they did like all the special wedding planning, but she was like, my girls, my girls, my girls. Like it
Yeah.
really felt like the when you get like serious with your significant other and you're like around their family a lot, but like you're not like you haven't hit that stage where like the significant other parents start like treating you like one of their kids, and instead you're just like there and you're like, yeah, I've spent a lot of time with you, but like obviously I'm not your kid. Like
Yeah.
Roman, she was like Roman, like you're not my kid.
It's
These
like
girls are.
yeah, it's like if they were taking a family photo, she would like hand Roman the camera to like take
Yeah,
the photo.
yeah.
I've been in those situations where I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm not really part of this yet, so I'll take the picture, I guess, and everyone's like together.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely how I would see it. And like I said, they did make a comment. She's like, "Well, I'm older than all of you.
Mhm.
It's fine." They're like, "Marisol, you're 33. Like you're
Yeah.
not old."
You're
But
not
it
like
also it kind of gives way to like her character about maybe how she had to grow up really
mhm.
fast because her significant other joined the war effort. And
Mhm.
so I want to kind of jump into the war aspect. So the
Yes.
background, this is basically a Hades Persephone story, okay?
Yeah.
This is the background of the gods, okay? It's Hades versus Persephone. And we call them, is it Dacra? Dagra?
Darcy?
No, it's Dacre.
No. I don't know. I pronounce it Darcy in
I
my
even I even listened to some of the audiobook. I need to pay
Oh,
attention
well then I
more.
believe you.
Let's do Dacra. Let's do
It's
Dacra,
like
okay?
D and Elena, but I don't think her name's actually Elena.
It's Enva.
Yeah, close enough.
Yeah, so D&D, okay?
Dini.
Dagra is like he's Hades. He's the dark,
Yeah.
cruel, mean. Enva is the like the whole music thing. She's the one, so she's kind of
Mhm.
light, and she is who Forrest fights for in the beginning. And then we find out, of course, that whole situation. So this is the background story of the gods, right? We have this going on in
Yeah.
the backgrounds. That's the fantasy element.
Mhm. Which
Um,
it's all about like the mythology of it. Like
yeah,
and I
exactly.
did see like the fantasy is more like mythology than like traditional fantasy.
Hmm.
And so like it is like Persephone and Hades. It's also kind of like Romeo and Juliet, but like Romeo is just an abuser because the like E's family is like the Skywards or something like that. And I don't like and then Dee's family is like the underground people, like the two family of gods, and they're
Yeah,
like kind of in
Montague
competition,
Capulet
but
stuff.
like
Yeah.
kind of not. And then Dee tries to like kidnap E, and then like does take E through like coercion, and then
Right. Yeah,
does
no.
music shit, and
Yeah, and it's
then
like exactly like the Hades Persephone story where
yeah,
like they're kind of in love, but like she like despises him. So she like loves him in despite. Anyways, so
yeah,
yeah, this is crazy. So
still figuring it
we
out.
the whole story is we never really get like the war scenes really,
Mm-mm.
except we know that Dacro's D's army is coming closer and closer to
Yeah.
where they are staying in the B&B, and it comes
Mm-hmm.
to the point where they have the opportunity to leave, but they decide, of course, not to because it's a book, and
Yeah.
and
Because we
then
need to actually see when the armies arrive.
and there is this huge imagery. Like it's their wedding night, they're getting all spicy, they got the candles, and then all of a sudden they're like, "You need to blow out the candles." I actually kind of love that kind of like
Yeah.
dark time, no light, no sound. Like
Mhm.
I love that. That is like so creepy and so fun to me, and it kind of adds this like suspense. So
Yeah.
then they go out, and of course, there's this whole imagery of like, "Don't let go of my hand, promise not to let go of my hand." Well, of course, she
Mhm.
goes and lets go of his hand, and then
She's a
a
dumb
bomb
bitch.
drops. A bomb drops in between them, and so of course she survives because the book would be over then. So, and then all of a sudden there's like confusion, there's like that like green fog or whatever, and then
Yep.
someone grabs her, and of course she's like, "Roman, Roman," and then she's like, "Wait, this doesn't feel like Roman," and he's wearing a mask. And this is
But she already like left with him.
yeah,
Like
I did kind of like that where all of a sudden it's like this is Rome, and then she's like, I hear Rome, I see Rome behind me. Who is that?
mhm.
And then of course in our heads we're like, oh my god, it's Forrest. This is fun. Like that's why like this book like went up in stars for me because I was like, wait, this is fun. Something cool's happening.
I just thought she was so stupid for not being able to tell the difference between like
His
her
hand and
husband
her
and her
brother's hand.
brother. Like,
Yeah, it's kind of creepy. Yeah.
but
So
I mean, I guess they were similar enough in size that the brother could fit into Roman's jumpsuit.
oh yeah, because that was
'Cause
creepy
he,
too. That
'cause
was
he
like
was
left.
wearing her clothes and had a gas mask on, which is how it makes it more believable.
Yeah, and it was kind of creepy. I did kind of love the like alluding to when they found the footprint in the backyard and
Mhm.
then his jumpsuit was missing, but they were never like, "Oh, it must have been the guard." Like they were like, "Oh, it must have been the
Yeah.
guards." Not like, "Guys, like what?" I guess that would be like a whole bunch of other chapters to like solve that mystery and there's a reason why, but it just sounds like it's so juvenile. And then
Yeah.
and then so yeah, I do kind of like the whole imagery of like Roman, like because she talked about meters or yards. She's like he was like 15 yards away and then he was like 12 yards away or like
Mhm.
I thought that was really interesting to kind of see that imagery. At least that's how I read. I see it in like movie form.
Yeah.
um and kind of him getting world away, and in that moment she really had to choose between Forrest, who is her brother, and the reason why she's a war correspondent, may I
Yeah.
add.
The reason why they stayed.
Exactly. And now her husband. And
Mhm.
Forrest is very short with her and says like, I don't care, and we find out that he knew about Forrest this whole time, hence why he stole the jumps. I mean, Forrest knew about Roman the whole time, hence why he stole the jumpsuit. And they leave, and he basically
Yeah.
knocks her out. He knocks that bitch out,
Mhm.
and then we find out that he is actually on Dee's side of the war now. Not by choice, really.
Yeah. I feel like the ending, like I felt like I could kind of see Ross's hand a little bit, like forcing the characters apart because like I mean, I it was so cool to picture them like in the grassy field, Forrest pulling on Iris, and like Roman literally like crawling towards her. But
Mhm.
I'm also like, if we're that close, then like I feel like we totally had time to like help Roman up. and
I
like
know
get him
that
out.
frustrated me.
I felt like it was just a little contrived of like needing them to separate. But it was so like beautiful, and like this idea of them like when they're like right in front of each other but can't move, and the guy's coughing, and then the bomb's gonna drop, and then
Yes,
there's a lot of like amazing like cinematic moments that
correct.
happened right here throughout the entire book. Like even when Roman first shows up and she like launches her body over him, and they have to like lay there still as the like dragon flies over, like there's a lot of like cinematic moments. The reason we have those cinematic moments sometimes is like you're like it kind of feels like the miscommunication trope, where it's like, I mean, if you just like would have put a little bit more thought into it, we could have avoided this issue.
Yeah, there's a lot of miscommunication. And on the flip side, this is very interesting because in our last podcast, I talked about this too. Is I love Hadestown, which tells the story of Persephone and Hades, which is the backstory of these gods, and then it also tells the story of Orpheus and Eurydice. And you could compare Roman and Iris to Orpheus and Eurydice, like this moment, because the story of Orpheus and Eurydice is that Eurydice makes a deal with the devil, and so I'm really excited to see how this next book goes. And Orpheus has to go into hell to save her, but the rule is that he can't turn around to look at her.
Yeah.
And I love the gender reversal on this because we know, and I also want to add in here that them leaving Roman in the field, if they would have left the book there, I would be so fucking mad. But because she added that epilogue of that,
Yeah.
he made a deal with Dee to go down because we know that he'll heal them.
Yeah.
If they fight for him, I cannot wait because this has to happen when Iris goes to hell to find
Yes.
Roman. And
yes.
because they already have the Hades Persephone plot, I really do think that maybe, Miss Rebecca Ross is a Hadestown fan and is writing, this is just fanfic, historical fiction fanfic for Hadestown. And this may become my favorite book.
Absolutely Hadestown, not the original myths, just
No,
Hades.
not Hadestown. Because she's combining the two myths into one, like Hadestown did. And
Yeah.
I think that it would be so cool to see a girl save him instead of the man coming to save the woman, which is how it always is. And it would be awesome if this book ends in tragedy. Because also in Hadestown, the same fucking thing happens.
Yeah.
Those Eurydice and Orpheus get married in like 3 songs. Like in the first, like, and you're just like, Howard, like, this seems way rushed.
Yeah,
but
it's
book
just
felt so rushed.
Yeah.
If I get this right,
yeah,
I deserve.
You heard it first here.
That is my
Divine Rivals, Hadestown.
Hadestown. This is,
You know,
we thought this was Hades Persephone retelling. No, this is Hadestown. Like,
yeah,
she went and saw that musical and was like, I need to write a book about this. This is what's happening. But she put a cool spin on it, and I think this will redeem this story for me. So that is it. That is how the series is going to end, and I hope it doesn't end well, so this just tears me to shreds, like Hadestown does.
Well, and maybe that's why they got married, because they're not going to be able to get married in the second book, and so you got to have that moment. Like, they're not going to have the happy ending, and so like them getting married is because it did feel like the wedding. I was like, oh, we're getting married in this book.
Correct.
But if it's because they're gonna have like a tragic ending, like that would that'd be cool. Like it hurts.
This would make it. Cool. This would be awesome.
The thing I'm most excited about that theory though is the idea that now that they're like together, Iris is gonna like have a little bit more agency. Like I feel like even like with the wedding scene, like it was all surprised for her, which was super fucking romantic. But like she's in their relationship specifically, like he's chasing her and she's just kind of like letting it happen. And I'm like not in a way of like she's not into it, but like
Right.
he's the chaser. He's the one doing the things for their relationship, for their love, and she's just kind of reacting to them, which like the ball is in, she holds the power in their relationship. But the idea of like, especially if there's memory loss, like if like he forgets about her but she like still like goes underneath to like try to save him, and like this epic like journal. And I wonder if he still has his typewriter. Like if we like all
Well,
of these
yeah.
pieces, like I feel like could like combined really well to like kind of see her
Yeah, I
have
mean
kind of a girl boss moment of trying
this
to
is
save him.
this is another plot hole, because an interesting thing that could develop is that at the end of the book, we she's like thinking this letter to him, and then they end up going home, and she receives a letter, and it's from him. And
Wait, did she,
so
I thought she just saw the letter from him that she had left. Because remember, he sends her a letter before she leaves, and she leaves it on the floor because she doesn't want to. She doesn't want to open it and read it and then not go to war.
I can look, but from what I understand is that they are going to be able to communicate.
Yeah.
Still, and my idea is that possibly it's not him communicating with her.
Oh, yeah.
And that she is going to get lured down underneath, and it's actually a trap.
A little tricky.
A little tricky trip.
Yeah, because the last thing that she reads is Iris, it's me, Kit. But that's what he sent before she left. I do think that they're going to be, because she does think about like, it's the typewriters connecting them, not the closets, and like if they could possibly still send letters if they don't technically have a closet. But I think that final letter is just the letter that she left on the floor that he had sent earlier.
Oh yeah, I see. She left it there for months. Okay. So yeah, I mean they're going to have to communicate in some way.
Yeah.
Cuz they have to. But it would be interesting to play on the like idea of manipulation, or I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, the book is like I said, it's a good book. I enjoyed reading it. Is it a top 5 for me? Absolutely not. I am very excited to read the next one to see if my views change.
Yeah.
I do think there's like a lot of ways you can take it. I think it comes out this year.
Yeah.
So
not long. So we'll have answers. I want to see more of Enva. Like I feel like, especially like seeing D at the end, I was like, oh shit, like because we're very like a step back from all of the like the main war and stuff, because we're just journalists reporting in. We're usually in fantasy books like you're on the A squadron team type thing. And so like I didn't know we were going to like see the gods at all. But then now that we did see D in the epilogue there, like I want to see more of Enva, because I'm kind of like, I feel like she could kind of turn into like a villain, or maybe not. Like I'm confused onto where her like path is, because we don't have all of the clues.
Yeah, no, because I thought when Forrest rescued her, he was gonna be like, she's not good, it's not the right side, but instead it was more like I made a deal with the devil.
Yeah.
So,
but I don't know. We'll see.
To go. I'm excited.
Me
I don't want
too.
anyone to think I didn't love the book. I didn't love it. I liked it though.
And I also feel like there's this issue where booktok will be like, this book is so amazing, and then you go into it blind, so you have opposite expectations of what the book actually then is.
Yeah.
And so like sometimes like Fourth Wing, we got like beyond blown away, and it like our expectations were met and then surpassed. Whereas with Divine Rivals, I had like expectations of this being more fantasy based and more plot based, and it was more of a historical romance. But then like I had to do all this work of changing what I was expecting out of the book and what I thought the book was going to give me.
Right.
that it kind of muddies it. And like, I mean, that fault is on us for like not doing research.
No, it's true. Like, I had to change the narrative in my own
Yeah.
head. So, like, that's why we're here, y'all.
Which is
That's
where
why
I
we're
think
here.
the next book is going to be great, because I like, now you know the world, you know the characters. There isn't as much of a learning curve, and instead we can just
Right.
like
Enjoy
enjoy the
it.
story. We're out of the epilogue. Like, we moved fast getting to like the war, but like in the beginning, when like she was just like, I just am not writing the paper that I was told to write, my one chance. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, it was just like it took a minute to get
Yeah,
there. But I
correct.
think we're there now.
I think we are. I think we are chugging away. I'm excited to read the next one. That is where I'm going to end it today, because we really dove into this book, and I'm so
Yeah.
happy we were able to give our thorough review and thoughts. Yeah, so that's all we have time for.
Yeah.
I really want to know, since you're here and you read the book, what was your favorite part of
Yes.
Divine Rivals? What character did you like better? Did you feel the same way I did? I don't know. I had some hot takes this episode, and I usually don't. And as always, let us know what you would like us to read next, and
Yes.
what you would like us to recommend, maybe some good reads. Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and happy reading.